Do any of you remember the Beethoven series of movies? I mean, I didn't either, really, just as a vague smear of early 2000s cheese, but it very much does exist. It was made, intentionally, mind you. In case you're like me and don't really remember the plot of the movie, I think the dog talked, right? I mean, it had to have been a talking dog, what else would they? Anyway, here's the film's synopsis. When the family of George Newton decides to adopt a cute St. Bernard puppy, the patriarch soon feels displaced by the dog, which is, just a hell of a sentence to open with. Before long, the adorable canine, dubbed Beethoven, has grown considerably, leading to household mishaps, as these things often do. While George's wife and kids dote on Beethoven, it takes time for him to see the pooch's finer qualities, of which I'm sure there are many. However, Beethoven's life with the Newton family is jeopardized when a scheming vet tries to nab the dog for a deadly experiment. Did you catch that? The antagonist for the movie's villain, is an evil veterinarian. A vet who wants to do deadly experiments on a dog. So, not a veterinarian? But wait! There's not just one Beethoven movie, you silly goof. That's right, there's two. Fucking many, because there's 8 goddamn Beethoven movies. In the second one, Beethoven sires a litter and must protect them from an evil lady who wants to either kill or sell them, whichever seems most convenient in the moment, I guess. In the third, Beethoven is at a family reunion out of state, and criminals are chasing them for their copy of a movie called The Shakiest Gun in the West that has a secret computer code embedded in it. Beethoven gets switched with a lookalike, Beethoven visits somebody's uncle, Beethoven becomes a movie star, some stupid fucking Christmas special that has way too long of a synopsis to give a fuck about just for the intro to a video that has nothing to do with Beethoven. What is my point? Well, sometimes things don't have to make sense to exist. Sometimes they just do. Life is a pretty weird place. Sometimes it's a pretty dark place, but hey, that's reality. Hey, glad you're here. Could use your help. I don't know exactly how to describe my problem or how you can help me, but I think maybe together we can figure this out. Sometimes it just takes 2 heads working together. All right. Well, the last thing I remember was. Sam, and a certain way, I'm a bit embarrassed to say this. 1900 Max Planck. Welcome one and welcome all to the Silly Science program. I'm of course your host, Sam Science Sadler, and I'm a bit embarrassed to say this, but in 1900, Max Planck was studying ultraviolet light. Maybe it sounds a bit boring, but physics told us that if you heat up a box in a certain way, without allowing any light to escape, you could produce an infinite amount of energy. Only problem was that's not what Planck got when he tried to recreate this. Instead, he just got this multicolored mess of radiation that amounted to a considerably finite amount of energy. Bummer. Frustrated and hitting a brick wall with his research, Planck decided to do something a little weird. Maybe because he was desperate, maybe because he was losing it a little bit from radiation sickness. He decided to run the numbers again, but this time treating light as if it was made up of little bitty bits. quanta, you could call them for now. What if, instead of light traveling in one continuous wave like we thought it did, wouldn't you know it, the math kind of worked. I mean, actually, it did work. Accurately. Repeatedly. Oh, This meant that either our fundamental understanding of physics was wrong, or maybe we were just missing something. Classical mechanics is beautiful, isn't it? So neat, easily predictable, gives us such a sense of structure, of safety. The universe sure does know what it's doing, huh? But I have an analogy for you because, I love them. You know how if you look at Earth from space, it seems like this peaceful, pretty, stable place, but zoom in and you see all these tomfooleries, these run-ins arounds, these hijinks, all this chittering and chattering and squirming about, excited to see what there is to see? Yeah, We'll take that principle and apply it to mechanics. When we start to zoom in on the structure of these things, we start to realize that our understanding of mechanics really only applies to a certain part of it. On a more detailed level, the mechanics become so complicated that our preconceived notion of the basic nuts and bolts of the universe don't even apply. And isn't that just like humans? We think some concept we made up is completely unshakable and universal. We ought to know better by now than to think we've seen everything there is to see. I mean, if I asked you to study the Earth from space for decades and decades, you might be able to tell me its shape, its apparent composition, its trajectory through space, the way it interacts with other objects. But could you tell me what Tom Pekowitz in Scottsdale, Arizona secretly wants to be instead of a solar-powered salesman? Or the path that each individual fish in a school of fish traveling east off the coast of a small island near India on Friday, September 8, 1952 took? Can you describe to me, in detail, the feeling that keeps millions of people up at night in gut-wrenching sorrow and crippling loneliness? There's a point in the universe where the line between reliable, predictable science and the magic and mystery of spirituality blend into one strange psychedelic space. But if there's one thing I've learned in my 3 weeks of binge reading papers on quantum physics, it's that science and spirituality are often one and the same thing. Where humans find a lack of answers, they insert their own, usually much simpler answers. It's a scary universe, and feeling like we have all the answers can help, I suppose.
Sir, I'm sorry to, I'm having a bit of trouble getting the test subject into the box.
His name is Chester. You can call him by his name. Just give me a moment, 47. I'll be there shortly.
The detector's also missing a few pieces, I think. The instructions aren't the clearest on whether or not
47? A moment. The science of mechanics was built as a mathematical way to describe the predictability of the world we live in, but it's now been renamed to classical mechanics. Classical means something different in the science world. It's not necessarily referring to an older version of mechanics or even a less correct version of mechanics. Instead, the term classical refers to the mechanics of a larger part of a system. The bigger the scale of the universe, the more simple, relatively speaking, its mechanics. It's like classical mechanics is the basic running and jumping in a game, and quantum mechanics is delving more into the specific combo moves and double jumps and
I don't think you play enough video games to make this a sensible analogy.
47, I think you could be making better use of your time.
Also, I don't know what year this is supposed to be, but I'm relatively sure you're speaking out of your timeline.
47. That's enough. So, the physics of a larger system can operate much differently than the physics of a smaller system, but when you get small enough, the physics become a different thing altogether. To get a better picture of this, let's go back to talking about light. Remember when I told you about Max Planck and his black box of rainbow radiation? Well, this discovery of light being made up of itty-bitty little bits, the discovery of the photon, led to some more experiments on light because clearly we needed to reopen the book here. An experiment was conducted to see more about how photons behaved by blasting them at a wall with a double-slit opening in between. And the physics at the time told us that we should expect this rectangle of light with a little bar of shadow in the middle, but that's not what we got. Instead, an interference pattern emerged, which wasn't insanely mind-blowing to all, as some suspected after Planck's experiment that photons might behave like waves individually, which is pretty much the case. After several trial runs of the experiment, they found that photons would sort of bounce off each other and form these troughs, which would cancel out the photons and create this interference pattern. I feel like we're getting somewhere, but what would happen if you blasted just one photon at the double slit? I mean, surely as a wave it would be able to travel through both, but it's just one photon, so it would have to pick one or the other to go through, right? You are wrong. No, we found instead that the same interference pattern emerged. The photon went through
both slits and interacted with itself. How about that? But how can this be? Like, how can a photon split in half? How can it be in two separate places at once? How can it interact with itself? Well, I mean, we gotta witness this shit, right? I mean, if God is really playing dice with the universe like this, we better get a goddamn front row seat. I mean, we absolutely must witness this bending of space-time right before our Oh, it didn't do it. What? We tried again and again to observe this photon splitting, but it just went through one of the slits. But when we tried again without observing the photon's path, interference. So, the universe literally behaves differently when you're not looking at it. This is gonna go a lot deeper than we thought.
Tell me, darling, if you could be in two places at the same time, do you think they'd both have that same terrible taste? Superposition is a pretty funky thing, and really it's the crux of today's video. Now, I could try my best to regurgitate a half-baked understanding of exactly what it is, or I could try to just show you, live and in person. Now, I'm sure you've heard of the Schrodinger's cat thought experiment, but maybe you don't know exactly how it goes. You might think that just because you don't know the state of the cat, that technically it's both alive and dead, but most people don't know exactly why that's the case, so it feels like an incomplete answer to me. This isn't just a thought experiment that proves how limited and stupid our brains are, but one that might just be the key to understanding the structure of reality. 47, do you have the box ready?
No, sir. I couldn't get the test subject to stay in the box for very long, and at this point there's too many holes in the box for it to even work properly, so...
Alright, I suspected the finicky nature of cats might be an impediment. Suppose that's on me. Just give him a treat and lay down with him for a while, will you?
Of course. I gotta say, I really don't think you know what you're doing here.
Pardon?
Weeds aren't meant to wield the trowel, sir.
That's a really fucking weird thing to say, 47.
You know what I'm talking about. You can ignore me all you want, but you can't ignore God.
Well, if I can't show you, I guess I will just do my best to try to explain it. See, the thought experiment goes like this. You put a cat in a box with a singular radioactive atom that has a 50-50 chance of decaying. You also place a detector in the box that will release poisonous gas upon detecting the atom's decayment, killing the cat. You with me? Now immediately this atom evolves to a superposition of both decayed and not decayed. And I know I haven't fully explained that yet, but we'll get there. So if the atom decays, the machine will detect this, release the gas, and kill the cat. But the atom also has an equal chance of not decaying, the machine not detecting anything at all, no poisonous gas being released, and the cat being released completely unharmed, although probably feeling a bit empty after being used as bait for God. The misconception is that this thought experiment proves something about probability or phenomenon, but really it proves something a lot trippier. You see, this thought experiment came about after quite a few arguments about how exactly quantum mechanics translated into classical mechanics, because as far as we could tell, these were the building blocks of the universe, but how? All we had so far was a bunch of unpredictable, unreliable, spooky science. Eventually, we decided that while quantum particles couldn't be observed directly without collapsing into point particles, they can still be described mathematically with a wave function, and the moment we observed these wave functions was the moment that they collapsed into point particles, materializing into our big, real world. But according to this thought experiment, that doesn't exactly work. I mean, answer me this, who or what counts as an observer? How does a quantum particle know if the atom it's interacting with in the outside world is just a photon or an atom in your eye? It seems that the wave functions would only collapse when they knew that they were not only being seen, but being observed, being known about, being understood. There's something that feels a bit messy, incomplete about this answer. It makes it feel like consciousness must play a role in the formation of the universe. It's almost like we dug down as far as we could and we found the face of the universe staring us right back saying, "Hey, what can I do for you? A little busy here." I was just at home and I started to feel really confused. I don't know, maybe I smoked too much or something, but I just remember feeling like it was getting harder and harder to focus on anything except for the voice in my head. But it wasn't like the voice that's in your head, that's there all the time. It was like, I don't know, it was like it knew more than me. It felt like I was arguing with some older, wiser version of myself. I don't know, it kept telling me that I would be all right and that I could get through this, and I don't know, I believed them, but holy shit, that feeling, that unshakable, undeniable feeling that there is no God. God! Burn my tongue on this tea. Well, I hope you're not too confused, because it's just gonna get weirder from here. I know I'm not the best at talking good science, but darn me if this shit ain't tickling me pink. Alright, back to this observer problem. The question now is how exactly consciousness ties into the manifestation of quantum particles into point particles. And now there's a big problem with the idea that consciousness has anything to do with the formation of the universe, and that is consciousness. What the is it exactly? I mean, it's a bit premature to say that humans are the only conscious life on Earth, but we have seemed to notice that we're the only ones that can collapse the wave function, so that's gotta mean something, right? Daniel Sadowski, a physicist at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, has been trying to find some alternative answers to consciousness having anything to do with the collapse of the wave function. Through something he has dubbed objective collapse, he's attempting to reach a blanket statement on the universe's creation that doesn't sound so terrifyingly abstract as to require us looking at it for it to exist. In his explanation, he talks about how waiting for one wave function to collapse on its own might end up taking longer than the duration of the universe's existence, but add more and more wave functions colliding, and the chance of this objective collapse increases exponentially. This could explain why the advancement of growth in the universe has been traced to have grown very slowly at first, and faster as time has gone on. This could also explain how, if quantum functions collapsing is what forms the very fabric of reality, it was able to happen before any life in the universe existed. I mean, come on. The universe doesn't exist when you're not looking at it. I mean, what's next? Your toys come to life whenever you go to school, and all your friends don't actually exist, independent of you, and they're just figments of your imagination. That couldn't be true, could it? Can you please not be so patronizing? Just give the college freshman level philosophy talk and move on, please. I hate your attitude today. That real Class A moves you're pulling here today, Buster Powell, Boy Scout. Why don't you try thinking before you just say your little backhanded. God, watch it. Watch yourself. If you've ever gone down a rabbit hole with philosophy, you've probably come across solipsism. Less of a strict belief and more of a bitter undertone of the reality of the perception of reality. Maybe nobody else actually exists. I mean, it's inevitable that one of us in our existence-bound confusion had the idea of this all being a dream. I mean, you can't tell you're dreaming until you wake up, but what if you never wake up? How can you ever prove that your reality is the objective reality? It's a scary thought. Maybe because it puts this spotlight on us, maybe because it makes us feel out of control and predetermined, but either way, science telling us that the universe itself might not actually exist without us looking at it is a bit too terrifying to grapple with, so it's completely understandable to want to reject such ideas. But we have to be different at some point. We can't just keep replacing knowledge we don't know how to get with made-up information that suits some comforting spiritual narrative. As nice as Sadowski's work sounds, it omits a lot of necessary ingredients for this here universe soup. Ingredients I'm far too dumb to understand the importance of. And too dumb to know you shouldn't end a sentence with a proposition, am I right? Is this breaking the fourth wall? Daniel's work is still just beginning, and has loads of potential to be the next contender for theory of everything, but I think there's another interpretation to this whole riddle. I think there's something that marries the bass notes of science and math with the sweet, jazzy harmonies of mystery and spirituality. I give you...
A questo punto stiamo tanto bene io e te che non ha senso tirar fuori come di perché cerchiamo insieme tutte belle.
Hey, tell me this. If humans is the smartest animal on Earth, why are we the only ones paying to live here, huh? Some grade A putz action right there. And while we're on the subject, you think there's an alternate timeline where Joey and Rachel are still together? Because I always thought they were pretty cute. Maybe there is, according to quantum physics. As more and more ideas were made, trying to move closer and closer to a rational, real-world explanation, but still moving farther and farther from actually achieving one, we found ourselves so removed from the picture completely that a pretty outlandish idea came to be. Now, before I explain it, I suggest you grab a seat, get real comfy. This is gonna be a bit of a doozy, although we're a bit of the ways into the video, so if you're still standing at this point, why? Now, the best way I can explain this interpretation is to imagine yourself as the radioactive atom in Schrödinger's thought experiment. You have a 50-50 chance of decaying, but since the outcome of your state of being will determine the outcome of something else, i.e. the cat, you evolve to being in a superposition of decayed and not decayed. In this interpretation, this magic superposition can be thought of as the universe sort of splitting into two different, almost identical but slightly different realities. One where you decay and kill the cat, and one where you don't. Observing this particle in superposition directly would force you to join one of these realities depending on where in the wave function you made an observation. Now, I know this seems like a bit of an out there idea, but to me it makes perfect sense. I mean, to think of quantum particles as entry points into different realities where one thing is just a little bit different from the last. I mean, could different realities be the 5th dimension? Or the 8th, or the 22nd? Could this be how the universe was able to achieve such perfect conditions as to harbor life? I mean, think about it. The Big Bang is thought by many to be just a result of quantum fluctuations. So who's to say there isn't some weird quantum realm where there's just these fluctuations bursting into entire universes, each with its own set of universal constants and initial positions? Just sort of spitballing until one of the universes can do something cool. Okay, to make this a little easier, let's imagine I shoot you in the stomach. That's maybe a little bit much, I agree, but I think we're past the point of trying to rationalize human emotion. The harsh reality is that we need to get that bullet out of you, and you have a 50-50 chance of dying from that surgery. Immediately, one reality where you definitely survive the surgery, one reality where you definitely don't. And the many worlds interpretation tells us that as long as there is some chance that you survive any given situation, there is some equally real version of you that does, and you can't experience a reality in which you aren't alive. So it's sort of like if you have two versions of you and both of them are like alive and conscious and experiencing things, it'd be kind of difficult to comprehend that, but if you just like shoot one of them in the head, then it just be you. You explained that beautifully, boss. You sure you're new at this whole science stuff? It's cocky of you to assume I won't turn you into a f***ing skin lamp.
I think it doesn't matter where I go because everywhere is equally as real and equally as fake as everything else. Nothing makes any sense, but I think I'm supposed to find something. I just don't know what, but I guess maybe I'll know when I found it.
If we can think of quantum mechanics as the universe's way of trying to be anything and everything that it can, these crazy ideas start to feel a little more sensible. I mean, at the end of the day, even the benevolence of reality isn't all that different from us.
I would like to know where I'm going. I mean, I don't think that makes me crazy. But why do I need to know? Why? I could just sit here. I could do nothing. Knowledge won't stop death.
In preparation for this video, I talked to a lot of different people about the things I was learning, and at some point I was asked, what's the relevance? And I didn't mean in the conversation as I first thought, but in our minds. What difference does this information make in our daily lives? What difference does it make in our ability to prolong life or human potential? Which I think is a great question because it's the only one that I can't really answer. I can't research that question. So I thought about it for a few days.
Why does something need to have a reason? I mean, because otherwise it's just wasting time. Wasting a part of your life that could be spent
understanding. It's a key part to love, wouldn't you say? I mean, you can't love someone who just DM'd you like 2 seconds ago saying cute top. You can't love the Warriors series of books by author Aaron Hunter just from the first 2.5 words. You can't truly love the Beethoven movies just from hearing that beautiful series of plot lines now, can you? Likewise, a big part of my art that is sort of unintentionally arisen has been appreciating the different aspects of life. Subconsciously, after spending a few years homeless and in and out of rehab centers, I started pushing myself to spend time and energy focusing on the aspects of life that made me happy through wonder and curiosity. A part of me that I never knew existed that wanted so badly to understand the things in life that made it the way it was. Because life is chaotic. It's messy, it's fucking painful, and it never stops. It's easy to feel beaten and worn out like an old pair of gym shoes that God's been using for marathon training. And many of us feel like life isn't suitable for us the way we are. Many of us feel like we don't very much like it here at all. And many of us feel like we don't very much want to be here very much at all. That's a shitty feeling, to feel so spit upon in the only place there is for you to exist that you'd rather be nowhere. This beautiful gift, seemingly the only objective of all matter in existence, can feel so not as beautiful as it sounds.
God, do I even want to find it? I mean, is this even real?
Yes, it's real, and you need to hurry. I don't think the monolith is very happy.
47. Who are you talking to?
No one, sir. Just checking the readings from the last few hours.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just think there's something about understanding that harbors love, and while this whole science thing isn't my usual approach, maybe there's an alternate reality where it is. Am I right?
Can we please keep it down on set? It feels like it's 100 goddamn degrees in here, and if I have to do one more take, I'm gonna shit my fucking pants right here, I swear to God.
47, how did those readings come out?
Oh, who the hell did set design? My eyes are bleeding looking at the color palette here. What happened to my shag rug? I thought we were gonna get shag rug. I think you're mistaken, friend. No, if you don't mind, this is a closed set. We have a lot to film today, and quite frankly, I don't think someone as ugly as you could even make it in this business. I don't...
47?
Oh, and what business is that, Dr. Ghibli's? Segregation? Why don't you pack up your dusty old moving picture get up and mosey on down to the corner store and buy a pop for a nickel, huh? Man, your insults kind of suck.
I'm getting close. I'm getting so close. Just give me 1 minute. 47, what the fuck did you do?
Sir, the monolith is faltering.
Oh, who the hell is this?
I'm almost there. Faltering? As in...
Well, at first I thought it was something wrong with the readings, and then I thought that maybe it was some sort of energy surge from some sort of deep system update.
47, what are you trying to say?
But the thing is, it's impossible for the monolith to be altered in any way as far as we know. I mean, it's circuitry, it's computing power, it isn't anything near something our systems could duplicate, so...
So it must be a problem on our end?
Exactly.
I think I'm about to arrive. What the hell do you mean by problem on our end? Is it something with the monitor? Did you check the antenna?
It's not a technical issue, it's...
Please, please, please...
It's a quantum issue.
What the fuck does that mean?
Sir, I don't exactly know, to be honest with you.
47, if you believe in a god, now might be a good time to start begging for mercy.
Holy fucking shit.
May the blackness of the void be forgiving on our gentle souls. Hey, I brought it. Sick.
So tell me, do you think you can just bend the realities of dimension to fit your narrative and not piss off God?
God wishes he could spank ass like me.
Okay, well, this is it. This is what I crossed the whole spectrum of time, space, and reality to bring you. This is it, Sam. This is the puzzle piece that completes the image of everything. All the chaos scrambling about as if it has any chance of finding the only reason why there must be something instead of nothing. All those late nights perusing the alleyways of your mind, finding solace in the sound of the rain, maybe because it sounded like the universe was crying with you. Those mornings, hungover and crusted shut. The soft glow of pale sunlight warming your fragile soul. The smell of coffee and the taste of your cigarette blending to form that cozy homemade smell that always reminded you of Dad. The way Godspeed by Frank Ocean sounds when you're really tired and you've had like a really bad day and you didn't think you needed to cry, you just thought you were gonna, vibe out to this nice young man's song, but then he hits you with that first I will always love you, and now your cheeks are hot and your nose is quivering and god damn, man. It's that je ne sais quoi of life that you're always talking about. That indescribable feeling that seems to surpass any science or logic. That feeling...
Hold on. The what of life?
Is it... What?
Je ne sais quoi? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, is that not the correct terminology? I thought...
Je ne sais quoi? The French term?
It's pronounced je ne sais quoi, sacre bleu, ha 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 ha.
Say it again, but it's...
Motherfucker said je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, I know that quoi is what, so I thought it was, Jenny say what?
What fucking sense does that make?
Do you want to see what I have or not?
Yes!
Good, because what I'm about to show you is literally the meaning of life. In all of the dimensions, across all of space and time, nowhere has this been thought to ever be capable of naturally occurring. But we found one universe, one timeline, where somehow, some way, it happened.
You mean...
That's right. William fucking Shatner, arguably most famously known as Captain Kirk of Star Trek fame, performing Sir Elton John's Rocket Man. There was one timeline that had it. Can you fucking believe it?
No, I gotta see this.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lyricist whose string of hits, in collaboration with Elton John, has made him one of the world's most popular songwriters. Please welcome Bernie Taupin.
In 1972, when Elton John and I wrote Rocket Man, popular among the listeners. Now, in 1978, at the Science Fiction Film Awards,
I'm truly proud, once again,
to present
My Rocket Man,
as interpreted by our host, William Shatner.
Thank you.
She packed my bags. Last night, pre-flight. 0 hour. 9 a.m. And I'm gonna be high. As a kite by then. Oh, miss the earth so much. I miss my wife. It's lonely out in space on such a timeless flight. And I think it's going to be a long, long time. The touchdown.
Man, this is so much better than the Eminem version. You know, they thought we were crazy for this. If I had a nickel for every time that someone told me I was chasing a pipe dream, and I was some rogue scientist gone hippie, I'd be able to financially recover from all the quantum depositrons I had to buy, am I right? I'm proud of us. I'm proud of you. But I mean, seriously, didn't you doubt any of this, like, at least once? I mean, we basically did set out to find the meaning of life. You know, I did. But you know what else? I bet the first 8 people to leave the trees to wander the land had doubts. I bet the first humans to venture past their tribe's hunting grounds had doubts. I bet
the first group of humans to build a boat and venture out into the middle of the fucking ocean had plenty of goddamn doubts.
That's fair. But let's inquire into that doubt for a second, shall we? I mean, before we decide to just act on it or ignore it, let's ask it what it wants, huh? If you were living on an island and you found it to be too small to satisfy your current needs, you might think of finding somewhere else, right? Let's say you have enough wood on the island to build a boat. You toss some rations in there, lug it to the shoreline, eyes locked on that golden horizon ahead, but hold on a sec there, because there's some dangerous critters lurking under that surface. I mean, there's also rough waters, dehydration, starvation, exposure, drowning, and there could be nothing out there. All these threats, all these obstacles, for the promise of nothing. Nothing certain, anyway. These factors must be considered before a decision is made, because we have such a fragile and temporary life. It'd be such a shame to waste it on trying to stay alive. I mean, I suppose you're gonna die anyway, so the only difference in the deaths would be the intention behind them. I mean, to choose death out of fear of what might be out there, and to choose the risk of death out of the love that you feel for yourself. You remember that quarantine thing for the corny 19 or whatever? That sucked, am I right? I mean, that fucking blew nuts. You hate to spend the whole day inside. You hate to spend weeks on end inside. You hate to spend months inside, so why spend your life inside? Why spend the existence of everything inside?
Yeah, but like in this case, you're advocating for someone like researching quantum physics. So
No, it doesn't have to be quantum physics. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot to see out there.
Well, yeah, I know, but like either way, it's gonna take research, which usually takes place inside. So, like I'm saying, like in this case, you're technically advocating for somebody spending their life inside, like to research. So
Didn't your forum collapse when we turned off the monolith? I'm gonna go get a drink. I'll see you in another reality.
And I think it's going to be a long, long time. The touchdown brings me back again to find I'm not the man they think I am back home. Oh, no, no, no. I'm a rocket man. Rocket man. Burning out his fuse out here alone. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown bring me round again and find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh, no, no, no. I'm a rocket man. Rocket man. Burning out his fuse out here alone. Mars ain't the kind of place to raise a kid. In fact, it's cold as hell. And there's no one there to raise them. If you did, and all this science, I don't understand. It's just a job. 5 days a week. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me around again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh, no, no, no. I'm a rocket man. Rocket man. Burning out his fuse out here alone. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. And I think it's going to be a long, long time. And I think it's going to be a long,